sorry. It's the consequences of those decisions that we have to deal with, and that's totally fine. But what I'm trying to sell to you today is Sikhi is not really hard. It's very simple. It's because we overcomplicate things, we overthink things. So hopefully I can put everyone's mind at ease when we go through today's presentation. So it's quite easy. And to start off with, and it'll make sense why we're doing this throughout the talk, we won't take 5 minutes, but for the next 30 seconds or so, I would like everyone to close their eyes and just think about the thoughts that run in your minds. And just be conscious of what thoughts are coming in and out. And if you can, count how many you have. Is that cool with everyone? So I'll mentally do a 30-second timer. So if everyone could close their eyes, have a think. Okay. Who never had any thoughts in that moment? Anyone just blanked out? No? Anyone have at least one thought? Okay. Anyone more than 3? Okay, cool. More than 5? Okay, more than 6? 7? 8? 9? Okay. Anyone more than 10? Okay, 9 is the highest number. Okay, cool. And we'll look into what that means. Whether or not it was one thought or 9 thoughts, it's still the same thing. Because sometimes what can happen is we're pondering on one thought, and that's not any better than just thinking of 9 different thoughts. It will make sense when we come back to this. So just think about what happened, just make a mental note of it. So the golden bullet is Sikhi, which turns our big problem into Sikhi is very hard into Sikhi is very easy. What is it? It's this Bhakti that we read, Jaisi Manasa, Desi Dasa. So it's a case of our mansa, our desires, our condition is determined. So our mental condition, our physical conditions, and our spiritual condition. Whether you realize it or not, your thoughts are probably a product of your desires. So anything that you're scared of, anything that you're fearing of, is linked to a desire. So it might be a case of you're scared of losing something, or you're scared of not gaining anything. And if this is resonating, which hopefully it is, because Maharaj is saying so, these desires affect our condition. So for example, if I'm always worried about my university work, I'm going to be my whole focus is going to be, I need to study, I need to study, I need to study, which was all my life until Maharaj Gurdwara when I recently graduated. But now that's changed. Now my desires change and everyone else's desires change as they go. So this state of the thinking about the next thing again and again and again, you get trapped in this cycle. And why is the emphasis on this? The emphasis on this is, and this is going to be a bit of a personal question, you don't have to answer it. It's just more so to think. Did anyone think about Guru Sahib? Gurdwara, thank you. But it's the primary thing comes to this, the golden bullet is a case of when we make our primary thought being I want to connect to Guru Sahib, that's the only thing that matters. That's when we've reached it. So when a Singh asked me this question about a year ago, he says, do you truly want to connect? Do you truly want to connect to God? And I was sitting there, I was like, to be honest, I don't really want to. If God actually gave me that golden bullet and said, look, it's time to leave, I've got so many attachments. Like I'd think about my mum straight away. I'd think about my sister straight away. So my primary thing, yes, it's a high priority, but it isn't that I want to connect to God. It's a case of it is there, but it's not number one. And that's what I think everyone's in that boat. We really do want to connect to God. But is it the first thing on our mind? Or is it after our family relations, our personal goals, our career goals, our financial goals? Where does it align? And that's totally fine. But the bullet is to make it the first desire. So that's where I want to focus our conversations at. And we don't need to complicate it. So especially amongst the youth, there's this trend where we have to become philosophers. We have to read Gurbani, actually understand what it means. And that's totally beautiful. Like that is what we need to do. But we get so deep absorbed in it that we start reading so many different texts without even having a foundation and that connection with Maharaj and having that love. And that is something that is very different that I realize amongst the elder generation who have been smashing it. It's a case of, we know Matas who have the whole of Sukhmani Sahib Gant. So they know Sukhmani Sahib off by heart, but they won't be able to read Ura, Era, Iri, Sasa, Haha. Why? Because they have just pure love and devotion. And my point here is, Sikhi is not limited to anyone. It's a case of Maharaj says as well, if the Parya and Anparya Paramagata Pave, it's a case of that state of obtaining Anand isn't limited to someone who can just read and understand God through books. It's actually also available for that person who can't read books or doesn't want to read books. It's because of the thing that both are fine, but you don't have to be a Gyani. The most important thing is that you're actually meditating and you actually leave it with love and Sharda. Because a lot of the time we have a very questioning lens. We question Sikhi a lot, which is fine, which is needed. Because it's often that questioning that brings us closer to Maharaj. But then that questioning should almost always lead to a point of where we start loving Maharaj with that complete faith and Sharda. And so everyone can get access to Maharaj. But there's one thing that we can't do with Maharaj, it's play games and have clevernesses. So, for example, I've used this excuse a few times where I probably won't get up at Amritullah and it's a case of saying, oh, Maharaj is a hukam. Right? Like, it's like if you wanted me to get up at Amritullah, you would have woke me up. But then I've just used a small thing in Sikhi and just used it to my advantage. And Maharaj, like, look, if you wanted to, I'd get up. But we can't play games with Maharaj. It's very straight and simple. And in the same Shabad, just later on, Maharaj says through innocent love. So it's the emphasis on that love. And we have to build that love. We have that itcha, we have that desire to connect to God. But it's that sometimes we're not in that space all the time. And there's a Sakhi with this. So, does anyone know who Bhagat Farid was? Okay, about 50. And just for everyone else, so Bhagat Farid, a Bhagat is just, you could say, a saint, right? So someone who's very well scholared and knows God. You call them a Brahmgyani, one with God. They had a method of connecting to God. So before, if we go back many, many thousands of years, people used to do a type of tapasya, a type of meditation, you could say, a way of practice to connect to God. It would be mad stuff. It would be like holding yoga poses for, 10, 20 years, whatever it may be. So Bhagat Farid, they were kind of a gangster. So what they did was, they got a steel chain and they tied themselves upside down. And they used to meditate hanging upside down in a well made out of chains. And they did this for 12 years. And this method started spreading amongst people. And it came across a simpleton, a farmer. And he heard of this method and he knew that Bhagat Farid was a Brahmgyani and he knew how to connect to God. And he had so much love for Maharaj, he says, I'm going to follow the same thing. But being a simpleton and being a farmer, he made his rope out of hay. So you got a chain one and you got one out of hay. That hay rope, quite obviously, when he tied it and hung himself upside down, that rope broke, right? It's not going to last. And when that happened, he fell into that well. Now, those of us who have been to India or might know about the wells in India, we know that there's snakes quite often in these wells. And this well was very dangerous as well. Maharaj, seeing the pure love and devotion that this simpleton had for him, this farmer had for him, they went down as a human, picked the farmer back up and said to him, like, what was you doing? And then rescued him. And the farmer said to you, who are you? Like, why did you pull me out? What's the sketch? And he goes, I'm God. Maharaj said, I'm God. But the farmer didn't believe it because he wasn't like clued up, right? He was a simpleton, as the Sakhi goes. So he was like, you can't be God, you don't look like God. So he goes, okay, God said, okay, how can I prove to you that I am God? And And the simpleton said, okay, take me to Bhagat Farid, who knows who God is. They went to Bhagat Farid, and there, the farmer said to Farid, he goes, I've got this person next to me, this person saying that they're God. Please tell me if they're God or not. You know who God is. Farid was looking at him and said, there's no one there. So he was like, this person's a bit crazy. Like, who are you talking about? What are you on about? There's no one there. And then Farid asked him, like, so what do you do? Why do you think this is God? And then he explained, look, I followed your method. I created a rope out of hay, and that rope snapped, and I fell, and this person just dragged me out. And then Farid realized the importance, well, they already knew, but they realized that this was God, and that this person got connected to God through this innocent devotion. So it's that developing that innocent love. A lot of us, for me, it's very hard to comprehend. I'm not going to get a rope and do it myself because I'm like, oh, would Maharaj really come from me, would they not? But it's a case of we want to try and get to that level of developing that prem. So then how do we do that? And knowing this, saying that, okay, we want to keep Maharaj at the primary focus of our mind, and we want to develop our love to that point where when nothing else becomes questionable, it's just Maharaj. We often get into this mentality that we think we're too late. We kind of look at our lives and look at all the past things that we've done in our lives, the time that we might have wasted, but none of that time's wasted because we're sitting in a Guru Ghar. All those experiences have led us here today to do vichar, and this is like a step in the right direction. To put into context, our fourth Guru, Guru Amar Das Ji Maharaj, they came across Sikhi when they were in the late 60s, 70s. Obviously, there's a play in all of that. Guru Sahib is showing us that it's never too late. But it's never too early to start either. You got people who have gained mukti, gained realization of God when they're like 4 or 5 years old. So it's likewise. But our time is ticking. And we never know when the next step is going to be. So it's like, my brother Gurbir, he mentioned to me the other week, he came across this reel, right? And he was saying, imagine you'll die tomorrow. How would we act? Our actions will be so different to what we're doing today. I know for a fact a lot of people would change their ways straight away because of the fear of death. And that fear of death is something that we want to try and keep in our front fourth of our mind. Is that love for Maharaj that we want to try and keep at the front fourth of our minds. But that action is quite extreme. But we're all the way here. We think we have a lot of time. I'm there as well. But it's trying to find that middle ground where you can not worry about that time and be like, oh, I'm going to die tomorrow, because it's very important that we fulfill our worldly responsibilities as well. But it's finding that middle ground of this case of, no, actually, my next breath could be my last. I need to make sure then every single breath that I'm taking is in remembrance of God in some shape or form. So in anything, we have to be more conscious of our time. It goes on to this person as well. After the battle of Mahabharata, there was a king, and his name was, I have to read my notes because I'm going to butcher his name, is Parikshit. He was a king and he had everything, but he was told that he only has 7 days to live. Within those 7 days, he obtained mukti, he obtained Brahmgyan. So that just by example is just showing that it is possible. It's just about our mindset. Alright, so how do we build that connection? How do we build that prem for Maharaj? First of all, we need to know who the Guru is. Just as we have a Just as we have a relationship with the people around us, it's because we know who they are. We put a face to it, we put a name to it. For example, for our parents, for me, my mother, I know what I need to do with her to make her pleased, because I have that relation with her. So because I know she's mom, this person's mom. In the same way, we need to identify who is the Guru and how do we actually find out what they want. Then he's to say, so okay, this is my Guru, how do I connect to them? And then what does the Guru love? Because there's certain actions that the Guru just loves more, and that's mentioned in Bani as well. And it's a bit like a baby, where I saw a fellow Benji, and she recently had a baby. And that baby started just blabbing, blah, 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 blah. And the mother just started getting very happy. I was like, why are you getting so gassed? It's not even words in it. Okay, if you said hello or something, that's calm. But even I can go blah, blah, blah. But that's what Maharaj likes. What Maharaj likes is in the case of what Bhai Farid ji goes on to mention, is a case of it's those small acts where we start making steps to Maharaj, even though they might not be the complete, oh, hello, or mom, dad. If we just try and make those small baby steps with Guru Sahib loves that. Guru Sahib loves that you're trying to make an effort. They love that, okay, my child is blabbing away. So no action is too small. And so Namdev, they said this as well. They said that Maharaj is happy with me. They've got happiness in their heart because I speak about love. Because all of his devotion was in pure love. So it's about walking the path of these bhagats, these saints. And to develop that love, we need to see the actions of what these bhagats have done, these saints have done, and even what Guru Sahib has done. Because it's those guidelines that if we follow those very guidelines that are prescribed to us by God, by the bhagats themselves, to say, look, this is how we did it, that's how we can follow. Ooh, should have looked at my notes. Okay. WhyGuru. I want to do it anyway. If I said to you that, just imagine, right? Tomorrow, Baban wakes up and goes, okay, we need to have more serious speakers apart from like Paramveer, right? And then he goes on and he uses his contacts on LinkedIn, because I found out yesterday he's very linked with everyone on LinkedIn. It was a long conversation in the car yesterday. But, was it yesterday? Or was it? It was yesterday. Okay, Tika. And then he goes and says, okay, next week, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj are going to come down themselves and give a talk. I know for a fact, because anything is possible, if that was to happen, I'd make all my efforts to come here. I'll make every effort, and everyone else will make the same very effort to come and meet Guru Sahib, to listen to what they want to what they're saying. But we have that opportunity right now. We have that opportunity with Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, there is no difference between them and Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. They're one, they're the same. The same ceremony that happened from Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj all the way up to Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj was the same. Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, before they left this physical body, did the same thing of us giving a coconut, giving 5 coins to represent that this is the next Guru. They did that with Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. And they said that this is the living, that Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, they are the living Guru. So we've got everything at home, we've got everything downstairs in Darbar Sahib. But it's just having those lenses to recognize what we have. And sometimes it is hard. I am in those spaces. But Mahapurushas, so very great beings, which all within the last, you could say, 50, 60, definitely within the last 100 years, where they've had these experiences themselves. Anyone recognize the first Mahapurusha on the left? Only one. Two. WhyGuru. Who was here on the talk last week? Okay, it's the same hands. Okay, that's okay. Who wasn't here last week? Okay. Anyone from who wasn't here last week want to try? No. Anybody? Hanji. So, when VG last week went over the Jeevani, went over the presentation about Sant Attar Singh Ji, it just reminded me of I was thinking about my talk, and it reminded me of an incident that happened with Sant Ji. So, Sant Attar Singh Ji, I know Dasi came to them, so you could say a well-versed scholar. They said to them, and they go, you believe that Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj are living, right? And Sant Attar Singh Ji, so this is a very loosely translated conversation. But Sant Attar Singh Ji said, yes. And then the Udasi said, I don't believe it. There's no way that this Granth can be living. It makes no sense. Then Sant Attar Singh Ji was like, okay, quite frankly, we don't care what you think. This is our belief. This is what we're about. And Guru Sahib is living for us. And then so the Udasi challenged him. He goes, there's no way you can prove that. At that point, Sant Attar Singh Ji was, in other words, basically said, like, watch me, we'll do an ardas, we'll do a benti just to prove you wrong. Because Sant Attar Singh Ji said, what will happen? The Udasi said, if you can prove to me that this Guru breathes like a normal person, then they've got no other shanke, they've got no other reason to not believe that Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj are the Guru. So when the Divan, and then Sant Attar Singh Ji said, okay, just wait. Wait until Samapti happens. When the Divan finishes, wait until the very end and we'll take you into, when we do Sukhasan, and we'll prove it to you. So at the end of the Divan, the Udasi stayed behind with the Mahapurush, with Sant Attar Singh Ji. And Sant Attar Singh Ji did an ardas. They said, I've never asked anything from you, Guru Sahib, but today we have a person who's they did this ardas to Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. They said, this beings coming here and they're questioning your bachan, they're questioning your power. They're saying that when you said that Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj are the Guru, that cannot be true. So indirectly they're challenging Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj as well as Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. And Sant Attar Singh Ji said, prove to this person that you are alive. And then what happened was the Ramals, you can say the kappare on top of Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, it started moving up and down. Just as like a chest would move up and down as you're breathing and inhaling and exhaling. And the Udasi said, okay, now that you're saying to me that Guru Granth Sahib Ji are living, I accept this as well. The middle Mahapurush, anyone know who they are? As a show of hands. Hanji Baji? Hanji Sant Baba Haranam Singh. Anyone come across the book Sikh Gurus? Who hasn't heard of Sikh Gurus? Okay. A task is for you to write down Sikh Gurus on your phones, because that is a book that will change your lives. There's bachan by Mahapurushas as well saying, if you read that book, your Sharda and your belief in Sikhi just increases tenfold. We'll try and put a link in the group chat as well for the PDFs.
Author.
Hanji?
Author.
Sant Siv, what, Sant... Oh, I'll send it in the link. I'll send it in group chat. I'll make sure everyone gets it. But it starts with this. I forgot the name. Sorry. But by Haranam Singh Ji, they were very blessed Guru Sikh where they were so connected to Guru Sahib. Guru Sahib always answered their questions very quickly because of the relationship that they had with Guru Sahib. It's a bit like when you please someone so much, like you please your parents so much, the parents going to do so much more for you. And Guru Sahib did that, and that opportunity is there for us as well. So Sant Haranam Singh Ji, they were in a divan, and in their ardas, they were wondering, there was a case of, it keeps on coming up that the Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, Dasa Paatshah Di Jyot. In other words, all of the Jyot, so you can say, the souls that powered the physical bodies of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, and all the Gurus in between, that Jyot resides in Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. And they just had this thought, it was a case of how can this be? And in that very next moment, there were 10 bright lights filling the whole darbar. And Sant Haranam Singh Ji saw this huge amount of light that you can't explain it. You have to read the book to actually truly experience it. And just try and imagine that for a second. And those Jyots then went back into Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, proving yet again that Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj are just merely more than just a Granth, just a book. They are living, they are the Gurus. When you're speaking and when you're looking at Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, that's Guru Sahib, that's Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj sitting on the throne. That's why we show so much respect to Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. When we're walking in and out of a darbar, we put Maharaj on our head, there's a Jor Sahib waving in front of them, people bow down. It's because we have that full faith that this is no different than Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj walking and talking to us. The last one, as a show of hands, does anyone know who they are? No one? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Anyone, I think, did you say you know?
Yeah.
Also, Pachangi next to you. Okay, we'll get someone different. Who's that? Who else said? I was like, Bhai Sahib, Hanji. Hanji, Bhai Sahib, Bhai Ranveer Singh. A very blessed Gurmukhi as well. Bhai Sahib, Bhai Ranveer Singh were on a journey like ourselves. I think they were in their either late teens or the early 20s when they first started reading Gurbani. And they've had such a connection with Gurbani where they got to a point where each hair follicle was japing Nam, each hair strand on their body started saying WhyGuru, 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 WhyGuru. That's how blessed they were. And there's an instance, where Bhai Sahib went to a darbar a lot earlier than usual. And they saw that Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj were Prakash, so Guru Granth Sahib Ji were on their throne. But it was unusual because no one would do it at that time. So he just assumed that the Granthi Singh brought Maharaj out earlier and just placed them on their throne. So they sat down and started doing their Simran because that's what they were about. They were fully absorbed in Simran all the time. And then they went closer to Guru Sahib to do darshan and say, WhyGuru Ji ka Khalsa, WhyGuru Ji ki Fateh. And in that there's so much beauty. Because how many times do we go to Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj and actually say Fateh to them? Actually say hello to them? I know for me, there's so many times where I see Maharaj, put a bit of change in, and instantly I go into my Aradasa, Maharaj, I got this problem, I got that problem, can you help this, can you help that? And instantly it's just like, okay, thank you for everything, and I'll see you tomorrow. But it's never like a hello or a goodbye. And these Gurmukhs had so much love for them that they'll have that satkar, and that's why you'll see some Guru Sikhs actually saying Fateh as well. And that's one thing that after when I was reading about Bhai Sahib's Jeevani, their life, that I thought, okay, I need to start implementing it. Small things like that we can do. We go to a Gurdwara so many times, but do we actually say hello to Guru Sahib? But anyway, so they did that, and once we were going so closer and closer, they realized that Jor Sahib that was waving in front of him, no one was doing it. So imagine now we go to the Darbar, no one's around, and there's a Jor Sahib just floating in the air. And they were taken aback. And not only that, when the Granthi Singh came in, they asked Bhai Sahib, they say, so did you do Prakash? Because he was the only one who had access to the locks to take it out. And he goes, the Granthi didn't, Bhai Sahib didn't. So that was Maharaj, because they knew for whatever reason that Bhai Ranveer Singh was going to go into the Darbar early on that time, is the case of to prove to Bhai Sahib that Guru Sahib is living, that there's no other explanation for that Jor Sahib or to be floating in the air, for doing Jor Sahib or Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. There's no other reason for Guru Sahib to be Prakash there. Whether or not, there's many explanations to this. It could be Shaheed Singhs, it could be many things. But there's certainly powers beyond our comprehension, or beyond that science can explain. So there's a lot more power in Sikhi than we sometimes realize. So it's these acts of love. And one act of love that if we seriously want to connect with Maharaj and really want to try and consider is that act of surrendering. And that surrendering can start from any time. The biggest surrender one of the biggest is surrendering our time, even a second. Even though we don't own that time, just that second in the morning of just saying, okay, I'm going to wake up now and actually make sure I say WhyGuru before I even do anything, before I even touch my phone to check what the time is, or before I even try to turn my alarm on. As soon as I wake up, I want to say WhyGuru. And that act of love can change. So for example, it could be a case of I want to do 5 minutes of Simran now as a minimum. And if we're already in those spaces, it's about increasing that. It may be a case of trying to read Japji Sahib. And if you're already reading Japji Sahib, reading Jap Sahib. And if we got to the point where we're reading our Panjbani, it may be a case of increasing our time that we spend at Amritullah and reading an extra Bani, or adding two more minutes of Simran. Adding 2 more minutes of Simran, that's something that we can all do, whether it's in the day, in the evening, or at night. It's a small thing that we can all do. And that's one act of love, surrendering that time. The other thing that we can do is ultimately give our heads. All the Gurus themselves, from Guru Nanak Dev Ji onwards, they all took Amrit from the previous Guru. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, they took Amrit, Khande Bate da Amrit themselves from the Panj Pyare. And that Amrit is something that we have access to now. It's the same power. And it's that power, it's that medicine that we gain from is that power that we gain through that Amrit, and the discipline that we gain through that Amrit, the list of instructions that we gain, that actually make us into those bhagats, making into the bhagats that are here. Why? Because we're walking on the path of those saints. If we follow the path, we'll get to their destination. If we want to be where all these Mahapurushas were, where we can get to, we have to try and actually follow in their footsteps, because the formula is there. It's just the next step for us is just going to be different for any one of us, if that makes sense. Sikhi is all about love. But to develop that love, you have a discipline. Now that discipline, just checking the time. Okay. That discipline is very important, because sometimes, like we said before, getting out Amritullah can be very hard. It can be a huge struggle. But then we can't say, oh, because I wasn't feeling love for Maharaj, I'm not going to get up. It's our discipline that is going to create our love for God. And it's that discipline that actually motivates us to do other stuff. So all these, what you can say, these mental well-being individuals, anyone who talks about health and wealth, they always talk about the importance of discipline, talk about how important it is to eat healthy, how important it is to meditate, how important it is to go for a jog, sleeping on time. These are things that Maharaj has already prescribed us. It's the same thing. But when someone else says it, we like to follow it and say, oh, this person knows what they're on about. But Guru Sahib has told us from day one. And whilst it seems hard and it seems difficult, there's so much fruits and there's so many rewards that come from this. So the discipline. This is just a snippet from a conversation between Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj and Bhai Nandlal Ji. And it's a conversation where Bhai Nandlal Ji are asking Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj this case of, what does the Guru do? What should the Sikhs do? Asking from the Guru. And the Guru is saying, the discipline of a Guru Sikh is to wake up at Amritullah and set your mind lovingly on the Guru. The first act is actually have that love to wake up. So it's not the action of waking up, it's the action of actually loving to wake up. And then after, it talks about, then it is to chant the mantra WhyGuru, then have an ishnan, bathe, and then recite jap. So Japji Sahib and Jap Sahib. So Maharaj is clearly given a prescription of, you should aim to read all your Panj Baniya, especially when you're Amritari Guru Sikh. Because it's that discipline that's going to create that love. And then it's that love of, any action, any step in Sikhi is very illogical from like the normal person. If I was to say to my friend at like university, I was like, if I was to say, oh yeah, Sikhs wake up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, we meditate, we have a cold shower, or we have a lukewarm shower, we pray, then we have to go out and do something called seva, where we're serving other people for half an hour, 2.5 hours for our day, then we come back, then we pray again, and then we have to do that cycle again and again and again. It just seems illogical. It says, what are you doing with your time? How is that going to help you financially? How is that going to help with your health? How is this going to help you with anything? But when you have love for Maharaj, that love makes those illogical acts seem logical. Like nothing then is questionable, then anything can happen in that space. There's 5 things that I mentioned in just this part of this conversation. It's a very lengthy conversation, which will mention other things. But to focus on is to love for waking up, then is to do Simran, so to remember Guru Sahib. Then is to bathe, and then is to have darshan, to see Guru Sahib. So in the morning, one thing that you can do is, before you go to work, is just go to a Gurdwara and just see Guru Sahib and just listen to Gurbani or Kirtan, whatever's on. And then in the evening, Maharaj is saying as well, come into Sangat and listen to Katha, listen to Kirtan, read Rera Sahib, listen to these, and spend your time in Sangat. Because if we do that, then we can enter the immortal realm. Then we can enter the realm of Sachkhand. And saying that person who calls them a Sikh of the Guru shall rise up in the morning and meditate. That in the morning is to bathe and cleanse himself in the pool of nectar. Bathing in the physical bathing, but also bathing in our mentally and spiritually as well. When you do Simran, you cleanse yourself. You're more awake. You're active to take on any of the challenges that you have that are going to come across to you across the day. And by doing this, all of our sins, anything that we've done wrong, they get negated. Because the more Simran you do, the more cleansing you do. And this sets up for your mind to actually be in a loving place for Maharaj. This Bhakti, Gaviya, Sonia, Mana Rakhiya Pao. Anyone recognize that Shabad? Yeah? Cool. So it's a Shabad that comes up in, or Bhakti, that comes up in Japji side. And it's one that really sticks out to me. Where Guru Sahib is giving us the instruction of if you want to connect to God, if you want to develop that love, that bow for Maharaj, you have to start off with singing. You sing Gurbani. Then you listen to that Gurbani. The next step is listening. But when you're listening, you have to take things on. It's not, you don't listen and say, this is for me and this isn't for me. You can't pick and choose. What you can do is say, okay, I can understand this and I'm going to accept this. Anything that you don't understand, you try and find out, okay, and doing an ardas to Maharaj to say, please make me understand of what I'm saying, of what this says, what this means, how can I implement this in my life? Because Guru Sahib is always perfect. They'll never change their message. Throughout Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, the message is always the same. They've never said anything different. So when Maharaj is saying to us, sing, if you're learning everything, if I was at university and I was sitting in my lecture and I was saying, I'm listening and I'm learning, I can repeat all of this, I can even sing my textbook out. But if I come to an exam and I can't remember anything, and I'm not going to write what I know in my mind, I'm not going to get anywhere. And the same thing is with Sikhi as well. We try and jump to the love bit without having the acts of love. We don't show that appreciation to Maharaj. The acts of love of going in the morning and seeing Guru Sahib, saying hello. The act of waking up in the morning and saying WhyGuru for 2 minutes. The act of at night, before we go to sleep, to say thank you, Maharaj, for everything that you've blessed me with. And saying WhyGuru for another 2 minutes and then going back to sleep. So it's very important that we actually act on what we know. Because we know a lot amongst ourselves. There's not a shortage of information either. You can go on YouTube, you seek to inspire basics of Sikhi. There's so many PDFs, so many booklets, so many Instagram pages that talk about a lot of gyan. But it's not good knowing all of it if you're not going to act on it. It's those actions that develop our love. And then it's that love that makes those illogical acts that we might struggle with so much more easier to deal with, because they don't even become problems anymore. They become solutions. So I'll skip through this. Sorry. Actually, just to emphasize the point on this slide, our challenges are going to be very different for every one of us. We're going to have very different challenges. So for a baby, at the beginning, they struggle with attachment. So we all would have struggled with attachment. But for some of us now, that attachment may not be as strong as another vice. But when a baby's a baby, they just attach to the mother because of the milk and the father. Then when we grow older, we get attached to our siblings because we like to have fun with them, we like to play with them. When we get older, we start experiencing calm, lust, desires in general. So worldly desires, sexual desires, whatever they may be, that's a huge distraction in this age where we start forgetting about WhyGuru and we start letting our mind run else places. Then we start getting connected to our wealth, our jewels. And then when we get older, we start thinking about our youth, our beauty. But then this is where it then starts slipping up when we get so old where we start losing our intellect, we start losing our memory, when we start losing our physical health, that energy. And none of us are in that point right now. So it's like, we really want to try and make the best of what we have, make the best of this time, and act on the different forms of bhakti that we can do. So there's 9 types of bhakti, but if we went through all of them, we would have been here for a very long time. I just want to focus on 4. The first is sarvan, to listen to Gurbani and Kirtan. But it goes back to that bhakti of Gavye Suniye Mana Rakhiya Pao. What is it to listen? Listening is accepting or trying to accept everything that's said. Listening to the Gurbani and being present. So we're here on a talk, but our minds could be elsewhere. But when we're in a darbar, we should try and make every conscious effort to listen to the Gurbani. Because whether or not we understand it or not, that Gurbani has so much power that we start changing inside. That's the effect of Gurbani and Kirtan. And then Kirtan Bhakti. This is very beautiful. A lot of Sangat gather together and they sing praises of Maharaj through Kirtan. Kirtan is one of the most powerful ways that we can actually connect to Maharaj. It's the one way that actually Kaljug is quite frankly scared of, because it's one of the easier ways to do, coming to the Sangat, singing God's praises. But in that time, you don't want to get hankari either. Because sometimes when we're doing Kirtan, we start liking our own voices. We start thinking, oh, people are coming because we're really good at doing Kirtan and whatnot. It's very important to be in that mindset where we're just doing Kirtan to praise Maharaj. Then Simran Bhakti, where you're constantly remembering WhyGuru everywhere that you look. Because you're so deep and absorbed with Simran that that's all you can see, that's all you can look at, it's all WhyGurus everywhere. And the last one is doing seva selflessly. A really big seva that I came across recently, that I came to know of, was doing the Charan Seva of Guru Sikhs. So doing Charan Seva of our family members, our parents, our mothers, practices that we kind of lost. There's so much kamai, there's so much that we can earn from this, where there's bhajans that they say, if you do the seva of a Guru Sikh where you wash their feet and you massage them to the point where that Guru Sikh falls asleep, that's the equivalent of seeing 20 Mahapurushas. You only need to see one Mahapurush to potentially even get mukti, to get liberation. So imagine the benefits of seeing 20 Mahapurushas, 20 saints. So it's the seva that people don't want to do, where you gain the most. Just touching on seva, there's lots of seva that we can do of a Gurukar in our homes, cleaning, washing bande, Joryadi seva that people don't want to do, but there's the greatest kamai, the greatest rewards are in those seva. So doing this seva and do this form of bhakti where there's 9 different types, doing them, you develop that love for Sangat as well, because it's that Sangat that's going to save us. There was a Guru Sikh that actually asked Guru Angad Dev Ji, saying that this entire world is a flame of lust and anger, which Kaljug is. Everywhere that you can see, people just have desires, endless desires. And everyone gets very angry very quickly. If you just look at social media, you'll come across, every 3 or 4 posts, you'll come across someone shouting it. And this Guru Sikh said, how can I save myself from this? And Guru Angad Dev Ji responded saying, just as when a forest catches fire, a deer leaps out of the burning woods and enters a river to find relief, in the same way, lust and anger rage the world. But those who immerse themselves in Sad Sangat, which this is, they become cool and peaceful. So Sad Sangat is very different to Sangat. Sangat is just the company that you keep. Sad Sangat is that company that you keep and you remember WhyGuru. That person or those people that push you to connect to God. Something like this talk here, there was a VDG in the lift, and I asked him about the talk, because I asked him, what are you looking forward to most on the talk? So I could say something in this talk. And he said to me, I'm just here for the Sangat. So that gave me a bit of confidence. I was like, hopefully everyone else is here for the Sangat, and they won't really pay too much attention to me. But that's how beautiful Sangat is, because it's that Sangat that we save. It's being in that presence of that Sangat that we save ourselves, and it's that Sangat that push us into taking those next steps. And if you're in a place where if you want to take a step towards Sikhi, but there's people around you who aren't really actively encouraging that, it's important that you try and reflect and think, is this a circle that I really want to be in for the rest of my life? Especially in Birmingham, we're very blessed with Sangat. For like any of the Singhs, on a Friday night, we go to Nanaksar, that's just up the road, and we just have Beda Seva. So that's open for anyone who's looking for Sangat. And I know for the Bibia, for the Benjia, there's a monthly course forum here, and there's other forums as well, where you guys can get together and actually take advantage of that space of Sangat. Because without the accountability, we'll fall off the path straight away. Okay, so the very last thing, and this is a task that those who use their phones, I'll encourage you guys to actually take your phones out and actually maybe make a few notes. It goes back to our very first thing, that golden bullet. What is our whole purpose of coming here? We want to connect, right? And that connection is achieved by making our primary thought being that we want to connect to Maharaj. But then if we're saying all of that, how does that reflect on our daily actions? So what time do we wake up? And what do you do when you wake up? Do you go on social media straight away? Or do you start that 2 minutes of Simran? Sorry. One second. Okay. What's your first and last act of love? Going back to that time of what do you do when you first get up? And your last act of love, before you go to sleep, do you remember Guru Sahib? Because these things, if we trick our mind automatically will start thinking about Maharaj straight away. And our body, this is soul consciousness. So when we're going about our day on a daily basis, how conscious are we to the fact of, okay, if I go into this space, or if I have this conversation, if I go to, for example, a pub, or if I go to a Gurdwara, or if I have a conversation with someone who's swearing all the time, or if I have a conversation with someone who's always at the Gurdwara and doing Simran all the time, how is that affecting my soul? How many of us are very conscious of that? And if we're not conscious of that, maybe that's something that we should try and think about. Because the body, that's very important as well. We know there's certain spaces that we shouldn't go and we shouldn't eat at because the negative effects that happen on our body. But are we as conscious of that to our soul? And we'll go into certain spaces because we feel like nothing will happen to this body on the outside. But we're not really conscious of the effects that happen to our soul. And a Guru Sikh said this to me once. He goes, you're not a body, you're not a human trying to have a spiritual experience. What it really is, you're a soul, you're a spirit that's having a human experience. So it's like, and that just woke me up, it's like mad. But I'm so invested in this human experience that I've forgotten who I am. And that's what Maya is. We've interacted with the world in such a way that we've forgotten who we are. And any time we take a step closer to our soul and actually realizing our true identity, that's when like the challenges get so much harder. Because our body's not used to it, our mind's not used to it, because it feels odd. And then we fall back into the traps of, for example, I'm really trying to reduce my intake of Mr. Singhs, but it's not working. I've tried, I think the longest I've gone is like 3-4 months, which I was very happy. But over the last 6 months, it's kind of been a daily thing. So how much have I done? But that's because it's hard, but we need to be conscious of it. Because if we're not conscious of it, then we won't even make that effort. So wake up between 4 o'clock and 6 a.m. What have we achieved? Have we just achieved having more rest? And if you're sleeping through that time, why are we sleeping through that time? If you're sleeping at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, just watching TikTok reels, you're not going to get up at 4 o'clock, all right? And it's mad because it was at these times where the Guru Sikhs would actually Japanam from 2 o'clock to 6 a.m. So 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. they did 4 hours of Simran. Then they did 8 hours of work. And then they did a further 2 hours of Simran in the evening. So that's 8 hours, or 6 hours, sorry. 6 hours? Was it 6 or 8? Who's doing the maths? 6, okay. 6 hours of just pure Simran, remembering God. We can barely just do 10 minutes in comparison. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. If our goal is that we want to achieve mukti and achieve liberation with God, then are we acting like God's telling us? Are we following their instructions? For example, at an Amrit Sanjar, you get given a discipline that Maharaj is prescribing to all of us. When we get, it's like, we can't heal ourselves unless we go to a pharmacist and gain a prescription. And Amrit Sanjar is very similar. You can't heal yourself. You can do certain things, but to get that medicine, you have to go to an Amrit Sanjar. Going to that Amrit Sanjar, you get a prescription which then you follow. For example, the Guru Mantra is WhyGuru. You get prescribed that. And the actions that you do, for example, waking up in the morning, reading your Nitnem, reading Rera Sahib at night, in the evening, and following certain practices, not doing certain acts, all of this just fuels us and it makes us develop that love for Maharaj. And even that sounds like a very scary task. I remember I thinking about, okay, whether I should take Amrit or not. But that's not to say you can't make smaller steps. Amrit isn't the next step for everyone. But it certainly should be on our bucket list of saying, I'm going to do certain acts and at one point I will get to that point. And then in the evening, what have you achieved? So potentially just make a timetable, because you'll be surprised by how much time you spend on your phone, how much time you spend on your work, because these are things that are benefiting other corporations. They're not benefiting us. We get a little dose of dopamine and we feel happy, but after we feel so bad. But when you live a life of discipline, after a few weeks, you start feeling the rewards of it. I know a Guru Sikh who recently who changed his diet, and he goes, I feel wicked. I was like, why didn't you do it before? It was hard. And then to give him credit, he's maintained that, and you can actually see the effects of it as well. So it's certain small things. And then 10 p.m, sleep to wake up on time is just something that I try and practice. But if we're not sleeping, and if we're not doing the practical steps, then it's impossible to try and do anything else, right? In 24 hours, what do we truly achieve? Those days turn into weeks, months, and years. Let's not think about the past. Let's actually think about what we have now and what our next action is going to be. Because it's those actions that snowball into a massive effect. And if we're already on that journey, let's try and do more, right? Let's not try and stop. And there's specific things that you can do, like species, right? Does anyone want to have a hazard a guess if you was to go through that entire cycle once, how long it will be? Anyone want to guess? So
2 million years.
2 million? Any more?
No, might be 50 million.
50 million, so 2 million, 50 million. Higher or lower? What's the group consensus? Higher. What, 50? Oh, sorry, 100 million? A billion? 2 billion? 2 billion? Less than 2 billion? How do you think? 1 billion? 2 billion? Okay, Singh's got it the closest. So it's actually 3.5 billion years to go through it once. But that's not to say that we go through it once. Some of us may be blessed where that cycle might be a lot shorter, where we keep on coming back to the human body a lot quicker because of our actions. But for some, it might be a lot longer because there's Hanji.
Is that considering every lifespan is at its maximum?
I think it's average.
Okay, cool.
I'll look at it. I'll look into it, and I can get back to
I
you.
just find it very difficult how we can estimate that.
It's from scholars that are well more worse than myself who have come up with that. But
If you take the 8.4 million and just multiply by an average lifetime, and then obviously they've multiplied it by different numbers for different lifetimes. But let's just say we can't even count to 1 million.
Hanji.
So let's not go any further than that.
There might be different species on different planets with different lifespans.
Hanji, very true. Maharaj talks about that. But what I'm trying to emphasize is, we have a lot of this human body is very priceless, right? We've won the lottery ticket. Let's not waste our time, and not to waste our time, let's really appreciate what we have. Because then all of this to put all of this into perspective, it's not much that we have to do. It's just those small acts that snowball into that bigger act towards the end. But Hanji, one thing is everyone local? Anyone outside of Birmingham? No, you two don't count. German, Holland and East London don't count. Everyone else is local, right? Can everyone just get their phones out and just scan that QR code, please? So that involves taking your phones out, swiping up to get the camera, and then pressing the link that comes on your screen. A few of you guys have got it. If the person next to you doesn't know how to do it, just show them. This is a Amritullah Divan that happens at Singh Gurdwara. Does everyone know where Bhai Biljit Singh does his monthly divans with basics? It's the same Gurdwara. Every Wednesday between 3:45 and between 5 to 5:30, we have a divan, which involves in Sangat come together and they do Simran. We got read Nitnem and we do a bit of Kirtan, and it's all Sangat Roop. And that is very empowering because you're getting the benefits of both worlds. You're getting the benefits of Sangat and you're getting the benefits of Amritullah. We can do things on our individual basis, but if we all can try and come to one thing, because of the effect that it's had on my life, I can't recommend this enough, especially in Sangat. So hope to see a few of you guys next week. That was everything from me. If anyone's got any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm going to be here for quite a while at the back as well, so if anyone wants to ask any questions in private, please feel free to that. But whilst doing my presentation, I would have made mistakes. My intention wasn't to offend anyone or come across as being rude, so if I've done that in any shape or form, that was not my intention, so please forgive me. And thank you for your time, thank you for listening to me. Before we finish it, because I think we've still got, a couple of minutes, is it okay if we all do one movement there, and then we bula fateh? Yeah. एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निर्भव निर्वैर अकाल मूर्त अजूनी सैभं गुर प्रसाद जप आद सच जुगाद सच है पी सच नानक होसी पी सच आद सच जुगाद सच है पी सच नानक होसी पी सच वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। Any questions?